It unfortunately isn't that often that the federal government really goes out of its way to spend money to help regular people. We would like them to do that because we believe that would relieve a lot of suffering. It would make the country stronger. And now we have more evidence that that is true. Because for once, the federal government did actually try to help people in several different spurts. They did COVID aid that came in a number of different forms. What effect did that have? Well, the huge increase in government aid prompted by the pandemic cut poverty nearly in half this year from pre-pandemic levels and pushed the share of Americans in poverty to the lowest level on record. The decline in poverty, by the way, you can see in this chart, is 3 times higher than the previous record. And dentists don't want you to know about this one secret trick, but all it took was actually investing in poor people, like trying to relieve their suffering, whether through direct stimulus, whether through unemployment insurance, whether through increased spending on things like food stamps and those sorts of things. What do you know? It actually helped out. And what I love about this, Sabrina, is we have been, like, I was gonna say we've been through multiple cycles of this. Several of the cycles I'm thinking of were before you were born, but we've been through multiple cycles of, let's do these massive tax cuts and it's gonna be totally cool because we're gonna do it for the rich, and then it's gonna like trickle down. It's gonna be totally cool. You're gonna love it. I know. It's never actually worked in practice, but we should do it anyway. Well, here's the thing. It actually worked. They gave money to poor people and they're less poor. Shouldn't an experiment actually working like convince people at least somewhat as much as a whole bunch of failed experiments that never accomplished what they were stated to do? So anyway, it's certainly a good result though. What do you think of this?
No, I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, because of all of like the COVID aid that people received this last year, but also the rent moratoriums that were enacted in lots of places, I think had a huge impact on people. But obviously it's temporary because at the end of the moratoriums, that rent needs to be paid back. And that used to be people's biggest expense. So now that courts are opening back up, people are getting evicted. So I don't think that this is going to last very long. Obviously, a lot of like the COVID aid programs are also getting cut short. All the while, these big companies were accepting these loans, these PPP loans, and they still, laid off all of these workers, and they're not hiring people back right now. And that's, I don't know how much longer this is gonna last. Although, at least in regards to like jobs, I think that we might see slight wage increases because now, since people would rather stay home and be safe, and they're not accepting these low wages anymore. So I think maybe poverty won't like go back to how it was before, but I do at least think that increased wages, because they're going to have to go up. They're going to need workers. They're going to stay short-staffed. I think that will at least positively impact the poverty levels in the coming years. But I think expenses like rent are still going to keep people down.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. And it's one of the reasons I want to talk about this is that a lot of these measures were temporary. Even in the articles sort of like giving credit to the Biden administration, they also point out a lot of this is going to go away, but it doesn't have to. What if the American people got a taste for, actually, like some of the aid can come to people like me. It doesn't just have to go to, like artificially boosting the profitability of oil companies, defense contractors, and ever decreasing the share of taxes that are paid by corporations and the wealthy. You mean like you can actually spend on me? Yeah, in theory they could. The only thing so far that's supposed to last is gonna be the child tax credit, which is a part of this. But other things could be done. I would love for the Democrats to actually take some lessons from this. This stuff is both possible and popular. Like those are the two things you need in politics. You got both. For some reason, you're not gonna run it. I wonder why. I think we can probably figure that out. But anyway, so some good results we will see. You mentioned really fast as one final point. You mentioned the eviction moratorium. So that is due to end in less than 3 days. This morning, Biden said he called on them to extend it. We'll see if they do that. He certainly waited until the last moment. It is incredibly consequential. The fates of millions rest on that. So we'll be waiting to find out what happens. In any event,
he's really kicking the can down the road, though. I mean, You can keep extending this, but a lot of landlords are still expecting people to pay back each month that they missed, and nobody's going to have that. You're just kicking the can down the road. You need to really forgive the rent that people missed, or come up with other housing alternatives for people, because it's going to be bad.
Yeah, exactly. Like just adding more and more to what a person owes if you don't give them additional means or reduce it. Yeah, you're totally right. At least in the short term, kicking the can down the road at least keeps people off the streets at least, but you're totally right. It's not a permanent solution.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.